All right, let's keep it cracking on the Jewish Pan Africanist and founders of the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Supported Zionism to European Jews, ignored the Hebrews in America. Henry Moskowitz fought for civil rights but denied Zion, true Zion. Does that look like an African? Well, now let's just keep it moving. Here it goes. He fought for civil rights as long as the truth about Zion stayed buried. Henry Moskowitz is rarely mentioned when the NAACP story is told, but his role was foundational and strategical. A Jewish American political figure with a reputation for progressive reform, Moskowitz helped launch the NAACP in 1909. But like others that founded the table, he brought structure, not liberation, and purposefully avoided the growing cry of Hebrew identity among Afro descendants in America. Now, that is true because at the time, in the early 1900s, you had organizations that were teaching who the real Hebrews were, specifically in America. You had an organization called the Moorish Zionist Temple that was gaining a lot of ground, I believe, in the 1920s, but they had other branches before that. One by the name of Mordecai Herman. So let's take a look at some other information on Henry Moskowitz. So I just wanted to show you that one. Let's just do the basic click and search here. This is always, this is just some images of Moskowitz and some other things. Let's do the, let me make the right click here. So here we go. Your boy. Up, there he is again. Does that look like an African? Is he? I guess he could be. Well, another non-African person that's keeping some Pan-Africanism going on in the universities and colleges and incorporating socialism with all that too. Biography: Moskowitz, born September 27th, 1880, in Romania. He was Jewish. He migrated to the United States in 1883. He was a fucking foreigner. He attended the New York City public schools and graduated from City College, Queens, in New York in 1899. 1906, he earned a PhD in philosophy at the University of, Erlangen in Germany. 1914, he married. And in 1914, New York City mayor, it says, appointed him to the president of Municipal Services Commission. 1917, he served as Commissioner of Public Markets. Isn't that something? It says he became the founding executive director of the League of New York Theaters. Isn't that something? Now I can influence you by pictures, which eventually became the Broadway League. There it is. Of course, an organization known for producing the Tony Awards. He was an active leader in the Theodore Roosevelt's Progressive Party. So it kind of goes on to talk about this timeline here, and it gives some references. So it doesn't give you too much about his specific information. It just talks about Henry Moskowitz, worker dies leading in settlements here and made political labor movements for. Right, that goes on to talk about his death. It's an article right there that covers his death. He died in New York. Moskowitz was born in Romania. He came to the United States as a boy. Says he later studied in Germany. Isn't that? Yeah, of course. Where he received his PhD degree. He goes on to talk about that as well. Let me see if we can find anything else on him. Talks about his services. Everything is kind of confirmed by the other article here. It's not really giving us too much information. He goes on to say he was a member of the board of directors of the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee. American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee, the Jewish Social Services, and the City Club of New York. He's survived by two stepsons, Charles and Joseph Israel, a second of New York, and a stepdaughter, Cyril Franklin of London. So just kind of give you some more information on Moskowitz, another founding member of the NAACP. Another picture for you, this guy. Which takes me to another gentleman that I want to get into briefly here, because I'm not going to spend too much time on him. There's a lot that we could go into this gentleman here all night, but I said I wasn't going to mention him earlier on in other clips, but I'm going to mention him. So I changed my mind. So I'll just give you some information on this gentleman right here. W.E.B. Du Bois. His name is William Edward Burghardt Du Bois. William Edward Burghardt Du Bois. February 23rd, 1868. August 27, 1963. American sociologist, writer, historian, and Pan Africanist. Pan Africanist. Civil rights activist. Born in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. That's an elite area in Massachusetts. If indeed that is where he was born. Because he spoke German. He spoke German. And he was also given, I believe it was either a Mercedes or a Rolls Royce by one of the leaders of, one of the head politicians of Germany. Gave him a car. But he spoke German. So if he was born in New Barrington, Massachusetts, which was is a real nice area, Du Bois grew up in a relatively tolerant and integrated community. You see that shit? After completing graduate work at Harvard, where he was the first African American to earn a doctorate, Du Bois rose to national prominence as a leader of the Niagara movement. Okay? And it goes on to say a group of black civil rights activists seeking equal rights. Du Bois and his supporters opposed the Atlanta Compromise. Instead, Du Bois insisted on full rights, civil rights, increased political representation, which he believed would be brought by the African American intellectual elite. The elite has to bring it on. He referred to his group as the Talented Tenth. That's where that came from. A concept under the umbrella of racial uplift, and believed that African Americans, where they weren't using that word then, Jesse Jackson coined that word, they would call themselves Negroes then, needed the chance for advancement education to develop their leadership. Du Bois was one of the founders of the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Du Bois, under his position, to respond to racist incidents, and it goes on to mention a few things about Du Bois. But I want to mention that Du Bois, William Edward Burghardt, gave a lecture outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, just a few days before the Tulsa riots. Marcus Garvey was there just a few days before the Tulsa riots also. So looking into the Tulsa riots is going to be another deep dive that I may or may not do. That's going to break a lot of your hearts when you find out what the Tulsa riots was really about. And an organization called the African Blood Brotherhood that was in Tulsa, and the local black folks didn't want them there. The local indigenous people of the territory, because that's what they were going by, did not want the African Blood Brotherhood there. And they were connected to this gentleman and also to another gentleman named Cyril Briggs. So maybe we will do a deep dive into Tulsa. Williams, one of the prominent so-called black men in Tulsa, who was there before Gurley arrived, Williams called W.E.B. Du Bois one of the most dangerous men in America. Go back and look at all the race riots that occurred in the 1900s. Go back and look at the lecture circuits of W.E.B. Du Bois, of Marcus Garvey later on, and members of the African Blood Brotherhood. Look at the places where they went to give speeches and lectures, and then coincide the race riots of the 1900s, which during the 1900s, we must mention and remember, they were taking the money off the gold standard. And we were wealthy in the 1900s. We were wealthy in the 1900s. We were not poor. And the new system was taking the money off the gold standard. So tensions were already high. And a lot of riots had to do with people going to the bank and their money was devalued. It was gone. And if you don't believe me, do a study on Madam C.J. Walker and how they convinced her to put her gold in a bank, and then half of it came up missing. So maybe we should do a deep dive into Tulsa and more into this man. But little background stuff on William Edward Burkhart. Grew up rich, prominent family, nice neighborhood. Early life, okay? Talks about where he was born. Now listen to this. This is what's interesting. Let me mention this. So his parents were Alfred and Mary Burkhart Du Bois. And we're gonna show you a picture of how they fuck with your mind, okay? How they fuck with you in plain sight. Alfred and Mary Silver Burkhart Du Bois. That was his mom. Mary Silver Burkhart's family was part of the very small free black population of Great Barrington and had long owned land in the state. She was a descendant from, listen to this, she was a descendant from Dutch, African, and English ancestors. William Du Bois's maternal great-grandparents was Tony Burkhart, a slave. Okay. If she's a descendant of a slave, she ain't supposed to be able to own no land. That's number one. Born in West Africa around 1730. They don't even know where in West Africa. Who was held by the Dutch colonist Conrad Burkhart. It says, Tom briefly served in the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War, which may have been how he gained freedom during the late 18th century. His son Jack Burkhart was the father of Othello Burkhart, who in turn was the father of Mary Sullivan Burkhart. So let me show you a picture. This says Du Bois as an infant with his mother. And that one's too small, so we're going to show you one that's bigger. They're saying that that's Du Bois as an infant with his mother. They're lying about this W.B. Du Bois. This is the same picture. Okay, these are people that are dressed in prominent dresses. If you know anything about motifs and pictures and dresses, these dresses is you balling in, you rolling. These are wealthy people. But this is supposed to be Du Bois right here. Okay, now if you don't believe me, this is what they're saying now. It's the same picture. Okay, if you just pull it up on Google, let me go back. Okay, you see this picture right here? It's the same. It says Du Bois as an infant with his mother. This is what they saying. This is Du Bois as an infant with his mother. And it just gave you the whole mom's background, supposedly. This is a picture of a little girl in a dress. She's wearing a dress. She's wearing a dress. Okay, she's wearing a dress. It's a little girl. And if you also know about images, people, this is a feather in her hair right here. This is a feather. That's a feather. Okay? And if you know about what they used to do to the shoes in the indigenous nations, on how they used to do with the shoes and the rubber, okay? This is a little girl. The chair has tassels on the chair. Whoever these people are, they're royalty. They are royalty. This is also here, this is also coming from the back of the head. I know the tribal nations that wear this, coming from the back of the head. So either one of two things. Either W.E.B. Du Bois is from autochthonous indigenous heritage in the Americas, so why was he fucking with Pan Africanist stuff? Or this picture's not who they say they are. This is a lie. And we don't really know who W.E.B. Du Bois's mother was, but that's what they're telling you. That's the one that's what they're telling you. Now, this is W.E.B. Du Bois's father, who fought in the Civil War, white man. That's his father, white man. Or maybe he could be Jewish. Don't know. As a Jewish immigrant. Maybe that's why Du Bois was so willing to work with him in the NAACP, all the other Jews with the NAACP. Don't know. Have no idea of what he is, but he appears to be, he ain't African. He don't look like he from nowhere in Africa. So that's Du Bois's father. You can pull those images up online. Once again, to the Pan Africanist, you have a lot of questions to answer, just from the various clips and series in this dive. You got some questions to answer here, right? It goes on to talk about Philadelphia. Du Bois's tenure in Philadelphia. And it says, after 2 years at Wilberforce, Du Bois accepted a one-year research from the University of Pennsylvania as assistant in sociology. In the summer of 1896, he performed sociological field research in Philadelphia's African-American neighborhoods. What was he doing that for? Field research in Philadelphia's African-American neighborhoods, which he formed the foundation of his landmark study, the Philadelphia Negro. Do you all know that Philadelphia was one of the cities that the Americas, that part of the country, was run from by autochthonous nations? It was run from Philly. There's a lot of history in Philadelphia. He's probably fucking covering it up, trying to connect y'all to Africa, just like some of the other Pan Africanists before him. But it says he published in 1899 while he was teaching at Atlanta University. It was the first case study of a black community in the United States. He did the first case study of a black community in the United States. Wouldn't he already be able to write about him if he was a part of the community? And so, well, why would he need to do all this? Among his Philadelphia consultants on the project was William Henry Dorsey, an artist who collected documents, paintings, and artifacts pertaining to black history. Dorsey compiled hundreds of scrapbooks on the lives of black persons during the 19th century and built a collection he laid out in his home in Philadelphia. Du Bois used the scrapbooks in his research. Who in the fuck was William Henry Dorsey? Let's see who he was. Who was William Henry Dorsey? Artist scrapbook, social historian and collector of black history and art. He was most noted for the 388 scrapbooks compiled newspapers and magazines, clippings chronicling black life in hometowns of Philadelphia across the country in the 19th century. Where's all the information at today?